Hi, Si here from Music Radar. We're at NAMM Show 2018, currently in the Ableton booth. We're going to be taking a look at Ableton Live 10, or I say we. Javad's going to be doing us a demo. So, well, without further ado, take it away, Javad.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Si. Pleasure to meet you. My name is Javad Bhuta. I am the brand manager for the West Coast of the United States, and here to give you a quick little tour of what's new in Live 10. We're very excited to share it with you. Live is already known as a fast and fluid, flexible software for music creation and performance. And now in Live 10, you can create with a broader, more sophisticated palette of sounds using our new instruments, new audio effects, as well as a new curated sound library. We can work faster and stay in the flow with optimized workflow. There's a lot of little workflow optimizations throughout the update. We can do even more away from the computer with the added functionality of push, both push 1 and push 2. I'm going to be showing you push 2 today, but a lot of new functionality for push 1 as well with this update. We can expand the limits of what's possible with a faster, fully integrated Max for Live. There are so many new things in this update. I'm only going to have the time to show you some of them, but I encourage you to go ahead and download Live 10 and discover more for yourself. So without further ado, let's get into it. The first thing I would like to show you is a new section in the browser up here called Collections. What Collections is, it's 7 completely customizable menu options. In other words, I can name them anything and I can put anything into them. How do I do that? Let's just say I wanted to go and put a pad in somewhere. I can go into my sounds. I can do a contextual click, and on that contextual click, then I can go ahead and throw that right into my collections. Also, you'll notice the numerical value next to it. That's because I can use the numerical value to both place and take out these from the various collections. So let's get into it. I'm going to go into my customized drum folder. I'm going to load up a drum rack right here onto push. So the first thing I would like to talk about with you is a new feature called Capture. What Capture is doing is it's always listening to our MIDI input. 16,000 MIDI events to be exact. Not only is it always listening, but it's doing a little bit of smart analysis. And let's go ahead and look at that. The icon or the button for Capture lives right up here on the browser, right between session record and return to automation. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. And as you can see, it recorded everything. Not only did it record it, it decided on my loop count, and it also decided on my global BPM. I'm going to go ahead and get my loop brackets in a little bit better here. And you can see it set up my global BPM right there to be 99.50. So the next thing I want to show you is these drums are great, but I want to process them a little bit for my own musical satisfaction. Maybe do some shaping, some fattening, that type of stuff. So I can do that very quickly and easily with a new audio effect device called Drum Bus. And I'm going to go ahead and just load that right in. Now, what Drum Bus is it's a very quick device that allows you to adjust the central character of your drums. You can add warmth and distortion. We can add some saturation, we can take control of the dynamics, and we can dial in the ideal amount of low end. So let's do a quick little tour around this device. On the left hand side here, starting with the drive, soft, medium, and hard, this is our distortion. We have some trim, this is our input gain trim. Some comp, some fixed amount of compression we can apply. Some crunch, which is essentially our saturator. Mid-high saturation. We have a dampener or an EQ sweep in our mid-highs. We also have a transient shaper. I can either open up those transients or start to tighten them up. I'm going to tighten them up by going to some negative value numbers. Then I'm going to go over to the boom section here, and this is all dealing with the low end. As you can hear, we can get a lot of resonance right away. And then I can go ahead and start tuning that resonance with this virtual encoder right here. As I'm tuning this, you'll notice that I'm getting note values right down here as I'm going through the different frequencies. So let's say I wanted to tune this to an A. I get it close, and I go ahead and click on the A icon, and it's going to snap my frequency exactly to an A. This is the decay on that low end. And then we have a dry wet and an output. Dial that back a little bit. All right, those drums are a little bit closer to what I feel like they should be musically. So let's go ahead and move on. I want to add some synthesizer to this. And what I'm going to do is go ahead and load up our brand new synthesizer called Wavetable. It is a Wavetable synthesizer. And what Wavetable does is it brings new powerful synthesis techniques to life. It has a fast and flexible, familiar controls. It's capable of cutting edge sounds as well as classic vintage sounds. And the expanded user interface allows you to see all the parameters simultaneously. So let's go ahead and look at this. I've just loaded in the push. First thing I want to do on push is get my scale. So I chose A, so I'm going to go ahead and do D minor over here. And by default, what we get at first is a sine wave. So I'm going to go ahead and look at a couple presets by doing a hot swap right here. Inside of all these presets, we have a lot of presets, and we have even more coming out. Let's go ahead and do synth keys. Let's look at like a classic Juno wave. Here we have very Juno sounding. Let's look at another preset. This one's called Glowing Filaments. And finally, one preset that I would like to work with today is under the Synth Leads subfolder, and it's called Trident Stab. And what Trident Stab All right, so let me go ahead and record something really quick. I'm going to disengage this clip, and I'm going to turn on my metronome. You'll notice we have some new metronome sounds as well. So we have the classic, which we all know and love, the click, which we're hearing now, and we have a wood, kind of like a clav sound. We also have some expanded functionality of the metronome itself that I invite you to come check out when you have a sec. We can do different type of time divisions and also enable only while recording. So I have this ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and press record. Great, so let's start to unpack this synth a little bit. And as I alluded to, we can see all the parameters simultaneously by simply engaging the fold out icon and doing a little bit of expansion up here. And as you can see, we have our two oscillators. We also have a sub-oscillator, so technically we have three oscillators. We have amplitude envelope, as well as two completely assignable envelopes, two LFOs. Over here we have two analog modeled cymatic filters, and we have our modulation in MIDI matrix. So let's go ahead and start unpacking some of this. This is a very deep device, so I'm only going to start touching on some of the larger parameters. Some of the parameters that I've been really enjoying are the oscillator effects, which are right here. Right now I'm in FM. I can go into classic mode. I can start messing with my pulse width, and you can see the actual wavetable. I get that visual feedback. I can go into modern, start folding that wavetable on itself, allowing for some higher end resonance there. So that's for every oscillator, the two oscillators, we have all those oscillator effects. We have unison modes down here. Right now we're in shimmer. I can add the amount to that. We have a few different unison modes, as you can see. I have the voices. By the way, I have a poly voice limiter. This happens to be a monophonic setting that I'm using right now, but when we're in polyphony mode, I can limit the amount of voices, and that's really good for CPU optimization and such. We have the two cymatic filters, as I said. And let's talk about this matrix a little bit. So let's say I wanted to modulate the resonance of my second filter, and I want to do that through my matrix. So what I do is simply click on it. It's going to add it to the bottom of my matrix here. And then I can say, let's do LFO1 for modulation. Dial it in about 67 right there. And then I would like to bring your attention over to what it looks like on push as well. And this is part of the generalized update for Live 10, is really utilizing the visual capacity of push 2. And as you can see, we have the full waveform up here. I have my parameter banks. So I'm able to access everything, including my matrix right here, and I can actually assign parameters to the matrix. So I had modulated the resonance of filter 2 with my first LFO, so I'm going to go into my first LFO right there, and now I can actually start to do some automation with that. So I'm going to go ahead and press record. And so now I'm able to record that real quickly. So let's go ahead and add another sound to this and just start to build out the track a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and open up a blank MIDI track, and I'm actually going to go into my packs right now. And as I alluded to in the introduction, we actually have a lot of new curated sound packs, and I'm going to look at one of those. But before I get into that, I just want to bring your attention to how the packs folder is actually functioning now in Live 10. So I'm going to go down to the bottom of my packs folder, and you'll notice there's two subfolders, new subfolders here in Live 10. One is for updates. So this is packs that I've already downloaded and installed and have an update available. It will show me that directly from my browser and allow me to update directly from within my browser. And also I have the available packs. So this is packs that I've purchased but yet to download and install. So this is all managed from within the browser now. And speaking of the new packs, I'm going to go and open up a new pack called Electric Keys. Now what Electric Keys is, it's a deep sampled Rhodes, Wurlitzer, and tone wheel organ. Let's go ahead and hear the Rhodes. All right, and I'm actually going to pop over to push for this. Start to dial in my sound a little bit. Tone. Velocity. Let's add some tremolo to that. So really nice sounding Rhodes. What I want to show you guys today is actually a new way of melodic sequencing on push. And in order to get there, I'm going to press layout once, I'm going to press layout twice, and now I'm in what's called 32-step sequence mode. Now what this allows me to do is sequence polyphony. So first of all, I'm going to take that octave up. Now first thing I want to do is set the parameters of my loop bar count. In order to do that, I'm going to press layout, hold it down. Now that top line is now going to become a loop bar count. And I'm going to select 2. Let's say I want this first chord, I want that to fall on that beat. And I want that 5th to fall on this beat. Let's go ahead and solo that. Now you can hear that these chords are very short, but I can go ahead and press clip on push, and I'm actually going to get all the MIDI information displayed right here on push. I can hold down my sequence point, and that's going to allow me to do things like lengthen it, nudge it off the grid, this type of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and lengthen these two chords. Great, so that's sounding a little bit more the way I like it. I'm going to actually add an effect to this, and I'm going to do that directly from push. I'm going to go ahead and add device. I'm going to go into my collections folder, which is fully visualized on push as well. I'm going to my custom made effects rack. I'm going to open up a new effect called pedal. Now the idea behind pedal was originally to flush out the virtual guitar chain. So we had amp and we had cabinet, we had tuner, these type of things. And so now what we've done is we've created some essentially virtual stomp boxes. We have overdrive, distortion, and fuzz. We also have EQ controls and a dry wet, so I'll just parallel that real quick. Let's go ahead and see what that looks like over on the software itself. We have a sub resonator. Of course, I've done a bass cut, so we're not really going to hear that. And this little button right below the mid-range is actually a very subtle EQ sweep for the mid-range. We also have a little hidden feature that we can throw this into high quality. Alright, cool. So I want to work on these drums a little bit more. And I want to add some little bit of something to this. So let's go into the effects rack, and I'm going to go into a brand new device called Echo. So what Echo is it brings together the classic analog and digital hardware delays and brings them into one device. You can drive and shape sounds with its analog modeled filters. You can turn up the noise. You can add some wobble for vintage imperfections. We can add modulation and reverb. We can also create diffuse soundscapes as well as just wailing feedback. So let's go ahead and look at some of the parameters of this. The first thing you'll notice is what we call the time tunnel right here in the center. And as you can hear, I'm getting essentially some analog repitching as I'm messing with that time tunnel. We have our feedback, and you can really start to get this feedback on itself. One thing I love to do is crank that feedback, but then go over to the character tab, turn on ducking, which is essentially side chaining from the input signal. So you can hear every time the input signal comes in, it actually ducks out the delay. Let's add some noise. And maybe some analog wobble. We have 3 different delay modes right here. Right now we're in stereo. We can listen to ping pong. And we have mid-side. I like ping pong right now. I'm going to keep it in there. We have some reverb right here, and we can assign that reverb to be pre, meaning on the input signal, post, meaning on the output signal, or on the feedback itself. Let's go ahead and leave it on post. This is the decay for the reverb itself. Then we have our 2 analog model filters down here in the bottom in the Echo tab. And these filters are just affecting the delay, as you can hear. And then last but not least, I would like to bring your attention to how it looks on push. Again, in the same theme of live temp updates, we have full visualization of our time tunnel. We have visualization of our filters, of our modulation, all this type of stuff. So really great stuff. I'm going to dial back the dry wet a little bit. so let's now look at all of this MIDI information that I've created simultaneously in a new mode called multi-MIDI clip editing mode. And this works both in session and arrangement view. How I get into that mode is I just select multiple MIDI clips simultaneously. I'm going to do that by holding down Command and going ahead and selecting these 3 MIDI clips that I've just created. Now looking at my MIDI detail, you can see everything that I've created. As my mouse hovers over a particular MIDI information, it tells me what the instrument is. So if I hover it over here, I can see this is try and stab. I can see this is out of my drum set. And of course I can do all the regular types of MIDI editing within here, duration, on the piano roll itself, as well as velocity. So this allows me to look at multiple MIDI clip information simultaneously. Awesome, so now I'm going to move over to arrangement view, and we're going to talk about automation a little bit. And I'm going to do that by just taking this MIDI data that I've created and going ahead and dragging the entire scene over to arrangement view. Back to arrangement view. I'm going to Command L to engage my loop brackets. By the way, Command L also disengages the loop brackets now. Z is just going to zoom in to whatever I'm selected at. Okay, so let's talk about automation. So automation now is what we're calling global automation mode. And how I access that is a couple ways. First of all, the icon lives right next to lock envelopes now. So I can go ahead and go into automation mode like that. I can also use the hotkey, which is just A for automation mode. So let's say I wanted to automate some of the echo device, the dry wet on the echo device on my drums. So first thing you'll notice is that it snaps to grid as I'm moving around. Second thing, I have vertical assist lines you can see right in here. I can also double click at any point, and it's going to go ahead and create an automation point for me right there. So that's global automation mode. I can snap out of it by just pressing A again. Max for Live. So let's talk about Max for Live a little bit. So now in Live 10, using Max for Live, it's simpler, it's quicker, and it's more reliable. We have significant improvements under the hood, meaning that Max for Live devices load faster, they use less CPU, and they actually just feel more like live native devices. So let's go ahead and look at some of these. Or let's look at one of them. I'm not going to have time to show you a lot of them. We have new coming up multi-channel audio support. We have updated LFO device, convolution reverb, so on and so forth. What I'm going to be showing you today is a new device called Shaper. And Shaper is very similar to the LFO device in as much as that I can map it to any parameter. So let's say I wanted to map it to the chain volume of my Rhodes. Go ahead and click map, map it on there. The difference is the type of shapes we can get. So I can draw in shapes and it snaps just like it did in automation. We have different shapes. I can increase the grid resolution. So that's the new Shaper device in Max for Live. All right, let's say I wanted to put some audio in here. I'm just going to drop, let's say, a little shaker right in here. So I'm going to just go ahead and drag and drop this onto an audio channel. And I'm going to look at my audio detail. I'm going to make sure it's warped. I'm going to turn on my metronome and I'm going to go ahead and solo that. So as you can see, it did a pretty good job of just snapping it in. I'm pretty close to the BPM. It's for 100 BPM and I'm at 99. So what I'm going to do is hold down Shift and actually just drag it. This is a new way of time stretching. So I'm going to make sure it's right on the grid there. Nice, I can go ahead and duplicate that. We have some new zoom functions, so I can go ahead and holding down Option using 2-finger scroll gesture on Mac is giving me my vertical zoom. Holding down Option and Command is giving me my, or just holding down Command is giving me my horizontal zoom. I'm going to go ahead and save this now. Just Command S, and let's say I deleted this section right here, and then I Command S again, I saved it again. Now, obviously in version 9, we would have made a very concrete choice, but now I can just Command Z, because what saving doesn't wipe your undo history anymore. So that's a big deal for me. We don't have to hesitate before we press that save button. The other thing I would like to bring your attention to is within the current projects folder, we now have a new folder called Backup. And what this does is every time I save, rather than overriding the previous ALS file, what it does is creates a new ALS file. And it does that until we reach the number 10. And once we reach the number 10, it starts getting rid of the older ones and adding newer ones. So what this is doing is creating an automatic save history in Backup. I'm going to go ahead and group these tracks together real quick by Command G. And by the way, I can group inside of group, what we call nested groups. That kind of goes on forever. And I'm going to go ahead and add an audio effect to that, a compressor. And then I'm going to pop over to push right here, because now we have all our sidechain routing is completely available through push. And I can go into sidechain, turn sidechain on, organic 64 kick. I'm going to look for that kick. There we go. Back to main, drop my threshold. So that I can do all my sidechain routing directly from push now. And the last thing I want to do is just export this. Shift Command R, and you'll notice that we have some new export modes. We have MP3 encoding, as well as Wave AIF and FLAC, and I can export these simultaneously. So I just hit export, I'm going to come up with 2 different files, both a Wave and an MP3. You guys, there are so many new features and improvements in Live 10 Update that I've only had a chance to show you a few of them. I really encourage you to download Live 10 and explore it yourself. There's really, truly something for every type of workflow in here. So thank you very much. Thank you very much to Computer Music Mag, and we'll see you later.